In a slew of announcements today, the Ontario has announced that it will be beginning phase one of its reopening plan. Joining me now to speak a little bit more about it is our Member of Provincial Parliament, Jim McDonell. Welcome back, Jim.
Well, thank you, and it's great to be back.
All right, it's probably great to be back with good news as well. I know a lot of people are waiting for this. So let's talk about today's announcements and the plan going forward.
Well, the Premier announced a number of businesses opening up today. Probably my most requested service being the marinas are now are able to open, along with golf courses. Our retail stores, as long as they have an outdoor or an entrance to a sidewalk or to the front, are able to allow people in as well. Aerobics, sports where it's not a team approach, but there's spacing, tennis, pickleball was mentioned. So good news. It's all about being wise with some of our choices and make sure that we're doing things where there's definitely spacing involved, personal spacing, and where there's little or no risk.
And we can't stress that enough, that this is just phase one. This is not a complete back to normal, and that our collective efforts in terms of maintaining some of these public health practices, such as distancing and hand washing, are going to be very important to make sure that that curve stays flattened and we don't see too many spikes as the reopenings happen.
Oh, that's for sure, because we want to make sure that we continue on little by little. We're going to evaluate these changes over the next few weeks, just see how they impact the numbers. Because any increase we can expect to see some increase in the number of cases, and then to make sure that we have the capabilities in our healthcare to look after them and our public health, and then we'll move on to the next step. Or if we're not careful, we may have to stay at the step or even reverse somewhat. So we're hoping this is just a slow, methodical opening of the economy that we'll see. As the weather warms up, that we'll have more and more freedoms to go outside and enjoy our friends and relatives. We're still at the number 5 as far as gatherings, but we hope to see that as we move on to be increased as well. So.
Absolutely. And when you talk about our healthcare system, we know, I think we've alluded to it before, that really the front line of the battle right now is in our long-term care homes. And the province also this week did make some announcements in terms of the ability for the government to take over a long-term care home if needed to deal with outbreaks.
Well, we want to make sure that these homes have all the help that that's possible. We find that sometimes we have to step in and give them a hand to take over the administration with people that are experienced. The outbreaks, different times, really can lead the staff through some of them. The issues that we have with them, and at the end, we're just looking at saving lives. So we want to make sure that we are able to accomplish to the greatest of anybody's extent. If this is a disease or a virus, it really impacts the senior person and people with compromised immune systems. So we want to make sure that we limit those casualties as much as possible.
And that's absolutely what it's all about, is saving as many lives as possible. And now when we talk about these reopenings that have just been announced, as well as the ones that have already started, we know that a lot of people that are going back to work are going to need childcare, and the province has also announced some measures to help in that area.
Well, yes, we're opening up, private childcare can be open up to 5 children in a private daycare. So we realize that if we're going to get people back to work, we need families need somebody to look after their children. So it's an issue going forward, and it's not back to where we were before, but it's a step in the right direction. And it's just the next step in moving on to opening up the economy, opening up people's jobs, and letting people get back to some type of normalcy.
And of course, we know that the Ministry of Education will also be keeping a close eye on this reopening process. And we don't know too much yet, but we know that the minister will be making some announcements in the next week or two.
Yeah, working with the medical officer health for reviewing what's going on around the world, around the country. And we'll be making changes. I know that there are a lot of experts saying that we need to bring the children back for a short period of time, at least, just to take some assessment before we head off into the summer holidays. But this is a fluid condition. We want to make sure that the capabilities there, but we want to make sure that the next step is a wise step and it's done with the under the direction of the medical officer of health.
And just one more note on education, something that maybe slipped by us in previous conversations that were heavily on COVID is that the government did reach some deals. We know that before all this happened, there were still some labor unrest with the teachers' unions, but a deal was struck a few weeks ago.
Yeah, there's, I believe all four teachers' unions have ratified the agreements now. So that's good news. So we're, that agreement's good for 3 years. So we're looking forward to moving ahead and putting that behind us. I guess this virus has highlighted a couple issues. We have to be very fluid moving forward. We're hoping things are back to normal in the fall. Really, that's my belief. But there's a lot of contrarian beliefs out there that we may have to continue for a short time in the fall with some of the online learning. So we'll see how that moves through the summer. A lot of it dependent on the technologies, evidence from other locations, and just our own conditions in Canada.
And of course, we'll be following all of that closely, as well as all the developments in terms of this COVID-19 crisis. And on that note, MPP, thank you so much for joining me for this particular update.
Well, thank you. And I wish everybody remind them to stay at home, stay safe. And if you have to travel or out of your home and you can't get your social distancing, they are recommending that you wear a mask. Just a homemade mask is all we're looking for. And it's all about limiting that spread and making sure that we can move ahead and have a great summer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, MPP.
Okay, thank you.